Hello everyone, welcome back to Bitcoin Escape Plan. As usual, everything on this channel is just my opinion. It's not legal, financial, or investing advice. Investing involves risk, so be careful, don't make poor decisions. Let's talk about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is essentially dropping off a cliff, and it's dropping past a major level. This is very important. And that's going to be the main topic of today's videos. I'm going to talk about all the other times where it has touched the monthly SMA, and go down into some lower time frames as well. I'm still getting feedback from everybody on threads on what time of day you actually want these videos, whether you want me to wake up super early in the morning before the market so you can use it for your trading advice, whether you want it in the middle of the day or kind of like a recap for the end of the day. So we'll just kind of see as I get more feedback, but this is the first video and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so let's take a look. So I've been saying this for probably about a week now. That if we got to 87.5 to 87.7, I would view this as we're probably done. Now, why is that? So let's go back a bit. Actually, let me see if I can hide drawings just so it's a little bit cleaner. So the reason why I said that is primarily, if you look over here, this is April. We dropped down here and we wicked way above it. We were nowhere near this monthly SMA. Same thing for over here in August of last year. We wicked below or wicked above it, nowhere near this SMA. So the last time that we really get an interaction with it is in 2023, which is us coming out of the bear market lows. So very important. We're below it for this entire period of time from April all the way until June of the next year, about a year that we're below it. And essentially, the first time we touch it, so it's kind of the same story over here in 2021. We get a scare where we're going towards it in the middle of the year when we had that big drop after the first peak, and then we rise above it. And then it's not until January that we interact with it. And we go a little bit higher, and I believe from here at the bottom of this wick to the top here is about a 50% move. So for us right now, that would actually put us back to all-time highs if we were to, if we were to move back there. We would get about, let's see where we are here. If we were to move 50%, that would put us at 129. So I could believe that we might get a pump to 130 and then we're done. This in general, I wouldn't classify this as a blow off top. And as you can see here, this Bollinger Band is starting to flatten out and is probably going to start dropping, I would imagine, as we get further into the end of the year. So rewind one more time. This is what we want to pay attention to over the course of the next couple weeks is how does it interact in the next couple months, because I think that there will be a bounce from here. I don't think we've actually started the descent into hell that people are talking about when they talk about Bitcoin at 70K, 50K, 30K. I don't think that's going to happen right now. I think it's much more likely that we see a bounce somewhere to in here, possibly even up here, and then it will continue to go lower, with a slight possibility that we do see that push up to 130 at the end of the year. But I would say that's the minority. I wouldn't say that is the base case at this point, because here that move happened prior to it touching the SMA. We were nowhere near it. So there's some evidence that we've already experienced that. So let's go backwards a little bit. Let's see what we see here. So 2017, for most of the year, if you've been following me on threads, I was using the 2017 analysis for pretty much everything. And that broke down right around here, right around August, September is where it stopped being useful. And we've seen a major divergence from how the market was performing then versus how the market was performing now. But as you can see, kind of same thing. We actually don't touch the SMA till way, way later. So the highs had already been long in and had been done for a while. As you can see here, closing outside of the top side of the Bollinger Band, then dropping down. And it doesn't look like that. It looks nothing like that. So we can't really use that as our reference point here because we have wicks outside of the Bollinger Bands, but we don't have candles outside of the Bollinger Bands. We don't need to have candles outside of the Bollinger Bands, but it definitely is something that's important as an indication of a top. So that's, I think, why people are kind of confused. I know there's a lot of people talking about how the amount of days between each cycle correlated to around October 6th anyways. So they're very confident that that was the top. It very well may be, just like looking at this chart. It's very rare that we touch the SMA and recover it. This is a quote unquote recovery, but again, it just continues to drop right after that. So I wouldn't really say it's a strong symbol. And then this is kind of pointless, but let's go back anyways to the elder days of Bitcoin. And same story back in the 2013 run. We come down, we get pretty close to it. In 2014, we get another rally, and then we drop below it and stay below it for a period of just under a year, 8 months, it looks like. So that's currently just reality. I know that a lot of people want us to not be done. They're convinced that it's not over until it's over, and that's fine. You can listen to those people if you want. I'm going to go based on the history. And the history is pretty clear that when we interact with the monthly SMA, this is the 20-week SMA, by the way. I know a lot of people are talking about the 50-week and the 200-week. I'm currently using a free version of TradingView, so I can't show you those. I'm just using these indicators because, again, if you're following me on Threads, they work really well. I'm accurate way more often than I'm inaccurate. It's the only reason why you're watching this video. It's because I know what I'm talking about, kind of. Anyways. So that's what we're paying attention to right now. My base case for what I think is going to happen, I don't think November is going to close below this. I think what's happening right now is they're trying to flood out the November 21st contracts for tomorrow. I think that they want all of those people to suffer, mostly because I bought those contracts, so they want me to suffer. And I think it's probably going to rally on Saturday or Sunday. And it'll recover back to maybe here to 96 or maybe a little bit lower, right in there, like 94.2, which I've talked about a million times over on Threads. And then I would imagine we get the rest of the recovery into the end of November, so that November ends somewhere in here, as opposed to being down here for the close. Now, I know jobs data came out today, and it was not favorable. That's part of what made the whole market red. Like pretty much everything is red that I follow, except for gold versus Bitcoin, which is not a good sign. And basically, that's what we're paying attention to now. Is I'm hearing some talk that we're not going to see a Fed cut rate in December, but they still anticipate they're going to cut into next year. So it's not looking like we're going to get a blow off top. They keep talking about liquidity. They keep talking about tariff checks. There's a bunch of stories that haven't really materialized. And until that money enters the market, there's nothing propping up the price. Now, there's a number of narratives that I think are still very important that I'll get to in future videos. I want to keep this one kind of simple so I can get back to my day. But that's the broad idea of what is happening at the moment is just we've touched the monthly SMA. It's very rare that we do that. It doesn't happen very often. So we have to take that as evidence that we are on our way to being done. Not that we are actually done. We'll probably get a bounce, a reaction off of it. But I wouldn't, all of the accounts that are saying we're going to 140, we're going to 150, I just don't think that there's much precedent for it. There is a possibility, like I said, we get a 50% bounce up to 130 to set one more higher high, but I wouldn't say that that is the most likely scenario. Let's take a look at the lower time frames. This is the weekly. So the weekly, it's more common that we interact with the SMA. We're very far below it now. Like we're way further below than we were in March, April. Let's see here. That's about a 15-16% drop, whereas now we are, let's see from here. Yeah, we're at like a 23-ish% drop. 24%. So definitely a sharper decline than in April. I believe it was World War III that they were talking about, as well as I think they were just trying to drive the prices down for anybody who was paying their taxes around then. That's a tinfoil hat theory. I can't confirm that. But yeah, pretty much there's nothing that is pulling it back to here. We don't really have the fib pivot levels. The next one is 80. So there's a good chance that if we can't sustain price around where we are now, that it's going to continue dropping. And if I look at my levels here, this is the relevant one that I have for here. There's a couple other lines I could probably draw here. This one is another one that I like, 80.8, which is obviously very close to that 80K fib pivot. But this is the candle close that I'm paying attention to. It's this guy right here. And it does seem like we're having a reaction to it. So a lot of times when I draw levels and I'm very confident in those levels, it's for a reason. It's because they consistently hit them. So that's what I've been paying attention to right now. I wouldn't say that that is strong enough indication of support or resistance. It's just a weekly close that was kissing. So anytime I draw a line, that's why I drew it, is because you've got two candles that close right next to each other. And to me, that's enough information that that price is important and that we might go back to it. So that's what's happening right now, is price is trying to decide, do I give a shit about this? Is this important enough for me to stop, or do I want to go lower to the pivot point? And we won't know, until we get further along. So on the weekly, we're sloping downward on the SMA, which anytime it slopes downward, technically it makes it easier for us to rise back above it. Like, as you can see, it's 92-ish over here, and then it's like 91 here. It's kind of irrelevant, ends up being like kind of flat. And I would imagine we'll probably get the same thing, where this will drop down to somewhere in here, 108, 109. And that's when we'll actually interact with it again. If we were to interact with it again, it's entirely possible that we just continue to break down here. That's not my base case. I do think we see a bounce, even if it does go to 80 before we see that bounce. That is my base case. I'm not selling any of my Bitcoin regardless. I understand that some people do that. I don't think anybody who is kind of poor should be selling any fucking Bitcoin. You can buy shorts on iBit if you want. You can, trade other things in the market if you want, but I just don't think for the average person who doesn't have an edge for buying and selling at specific target prices, why are you selling? What is the point of you selling? This is a transformational asset class. It's going to give you access to the upswing of wealth over the next couple decades. I don't know why you would sell it. It just doesn't make sense to me. If we want to go back a little bit further to 24, because this is kind of the other thing that we have to keep in mind, is this. A lot of people are talking about how the 4-year cycle is done. I don't know if I agree with that, but as you can see, previously, it's very boring for a long period of time, and then it's parabolic, and then it's volatile, and then it's very boring for a period of time, and then it shoots back up. Less parabolic this time, but as you can see, it's a pretty significant rise here, but it's been a very significant rise for a period of multiple years now. So it seems like it's just kind of extending how long it takes, which means my base case is that we'll probably not drop much further than here. I do see that this pivot point has opened up, but there is some confluence here. 32, this is an important price, both in the 2021 run as well as over here in 2023. If you were friends with me on Instagram, I was shouting about this all during 2023. So this is a price that people are well aware of, that I was talking about around, I believe, 30 and 32K. I would not shut up about at the time. So there's a good possibility that we go back there. I think we're going to end up having a decent amount of chop in here, from about 72 to 61, 54, somewhere in there. Whenever we do continue to break down, I think it'll consolidate there for a period of time before it were to continue to drop lower. And it would probably be some type of news that would actually precipitate it going lower, or just like a cascade of bankruptcies and companies going out of business, like in 2022, like Mt. Gox and other things in the past. So that's kind of what I would be looking for at the moment, is just paying attention to how far are we breaking down without a bounce? Where is that bounce potentially happening? Like I said, I think one of them is right where we're at now. 86, 87 is showing some signs of support. It might also just be tired from the day. Most of the volume might have already been done for the day. And that's what I'd be looking for. Do we see a reaction off of that? It's not necessarily as strong as this guy. This guy is going to be more likely that we see a strong reaction off of it. That'll also tell us, are we going to break lower? Because there's really nothing between that and that pivot point other than these guys, which there's definitely enough weekly closes in this range where, like I said, I think we'll chop there. I don't think it's going to shoot right through it to 53. I think it's more likely that we'll chop there and consolidate for a period of time, maybe into the beginning of next year. But that's what I'd be looking at. I'll take a look at the shorter time frames before I log off. I actually have no idea how long this video is. Give me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying this analysis. Thank you so much for everybody who's here, specifically from Threads, Instagram, or Facebook. I really appreciate all the support that you guys have given me. I'm at like more than 2 million views in the last 90 days, which is absolutely insane to me. So this is kind of what we're looking for on the shorter time frames. There is a pivot point at 83.6K, so it's possible that we see a reaction off of that instead of going all the way to 80. But the 4-hour pivot points are really not as important as the higher time frames. And as you can see, we've been going down pretty consistently for a while, and it just ignores any of the pivot points. Like, it doesn't necessarily make it to all of the pivot points. So that's what I'll be looking at over the course of the next 24 hours. I will make a video tomorrow. You guys will continue to vote on that threads that I made for the next 24 hours. So let me know, do you want me to do it early in the morning, during the middle of the day, like I'm doing now, or at the end of the day after the price is closed? Doesn't really matter to me. Just kind of affects my work day. So we'll have to prioritize being in front of my laptop in order to do this. But that's pretty much what I would be paying attention to, is we're right in the middle of these pivot points right now. Do we need to go all the way to 83.6, or are we sufficient at the middle and have enough interest to pump back up to 89.2? Obviously, that's going to tell us then, do we have enough volume to push up to 91, which is currently where the SMA is for the 4-hour, or are we not even going to get there and just push back down to the bottom? This is something that we will know, I would say, probably not until Saturday. Friday, I would imagine we're probably going to drop still. They really want to flush people out of those contracts. And that's what I would be looking for. So let me know what else you guys would like me to take a look at in these videos. This one, I'm just purely focusing on Bitcoin. I'm not going to look at the rest of the market. Over time, I'm happy to look at other things for you guys as well. On Threads, I really want to keep it to just Bitcoin because it's easier for me to actually get the information out to everybody and to make sure people will see it. But YouTube, I'll be able to be a little bit more dedicated to you guys and what you actually want me to take a look at. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Bye-bye.